Okay, so let's get into how we can finally end this cycle. So, this may look familiar. Restrict, it's unsustainable, you binge, feel guilty, you swear you'll do better next time. Let's start with the beginning. Restriction. Why doesn't restriction work? Every time you restrict, you go through this cycle. The first reason we restrict is because dieting causes physical deprivation. Physical deprivation is when you do not eat enough. Let me repeat that. You don't eat enough. You skip breakfast and lunch, and then you're snacking or eating late at night way too much. So you have to eat regularly and you have to eat foods that fill you up. It's really, really important that we get this point. And so basically just eat at regular times during the day. That's really important, but it's not the whole picture. Because there are these things, there are these crazy cravings. So even if you eat nutritionally dense food 3 or 4 times a day, that'll really, really help, but it's not the whole picture. It's not the whole solution. There's these crazy cravings, and let's talk about them. Here's a quote I want you to just keep in mind. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes you might find you get what you need. So you can't always get what you want. Think about that. Scarcity. People assign more values to things when they are less available. Now, to me, that seems like that's restriction. Opportunities seem more valuable to us when their availability is limited. Restriction. We want it even more when we are in competition for it. Restriction. It's dieting right there. Things that are difficult to attain are typically more valuable. Okay? So remember that. Restrict bad foods. Vow you will do better next time. Usually when people vow, they say, I will never have cookies again. And in that moment of vowing, I will not eat this again, you're making something scarce. And your emotional brain, your subconscious brain, is seeing these bad foods as scarce. These bad foods then become more valuable. You're in deprivation now. You want some valuable food, but you can't have it. And eventually you binge on this valuable food. So, in diets like these, when it's very rigid, 0%, right? When they say 0%, guess what? These foods become scarce. When something is scarce, they assign more value. So instead of just being a burger, the burger is now like a super awesome burger that's so good it makes your mouth water. It's rare. Same thing with fries and everything else, and anything that can be on this list. If you don't let yourself have butter or cheese or coconuts, it's going to be restricted and it's going to become more valuable. Now, the lesson is we want what we can't have. And this is just human nature. We want what we can't have. But it's so part of our human nature that scarcity is biologically wired into our chemical and genetic makeup. So check this out. When nutrient levels drop and the body gets hungry, the brain releases a chemical called neuropeptide Y. So basically, when you don't eat all day, when you are avoiding carbs, or maybe you're just eating carbs and you're not getting enough protein or fat, but when you don't eat enough, your body releases a chemical, and this chemical increases the biological drive for the foods that you're missing. If you're missing fats in your diet, you're going to start craving fats. If you are not letting yourself have cookies, you're going to want to start having cookies. And this is chemical. So that's why cravings become so powerful, because it's literally your body giving you a message that this food is insanely valuable and useful for your survival. So eventually you burst, you give in, and you blame yourself. You lose your motivation. But here's the thing, here's what's crazy. These cravings occurred because you created artificial scarcity. This might seem really, really weird, but you created it. You will do better next time. I will not have it. This is an improper conclusion. You don't want to make this is a fixed mindset thing right here. This is a judgment, right? Out of this judgment and shame, out of this judgment and shame, you're not learning. You're just repeating the same thing. You're not learning. So let's look at this a little bit differently. Your self-blame motivates you to try again. That's judgment. That's judgment right there. Judgment leads to restriction. Instead of having an open mindset, we think to ourselves, I have no willpower, I'm a failure, what's wrong with me? And it might seem weird, but if you feel shame, if you feel judgment, it leads into restriction. It leads into restriction. So we are breaking this whole cycle right here, okay? Because this cycle, it starts with restriction, foods become good or bad, the bad foods become more, we don't let ourselves have, the bad foods become deprived. The forbidden fruit effect is a medical phenomenon where restricted foods become more, uh, they create cravings. The cravings create the binge. So, are you ready to eat anything? Okay, here's the crazy part. If you want some more, so here's where this gets really interesting. This is like for any amount of food, you can have some more. Okay, so if you want crackers, if you want peanut butter, you can have some more. But here's where it gets crazy. We tend to want what we can't have. Then once we get it, we don't want it anymore. So this is like deep advanced psychology. Remember, if you are not treating yourself kindly, if you are not in a growth mindset, if you are not eating regular foods regularly, if you're not taking care of your emotional needs, these things that I'm just talking about right now, they come before this. If you just try to do this on your own without a strong foundation, then it's going to screw you up. But if you have a strong foundation, then you are really ready to actually get what you want. And that sounds scary, but it's okay. Let's see. We're going to listen to this video right here. Listen to Paulina, what she says.
So Jared actually helped me to be more conscious about not only what am I putting into my body, but also listening to my body, taking a moment to kind of assess, maybe about halfway through, okay, how do I feel about this? Am I still a little hungry? Am I hungry enough to finish the rest? Am I going to want even more? And that if I did want more, or if I really wanted that dessert at the end of it, that I shouldn't be too ashamed to have it. Because the other issue would be if before Jared, if I would hold myself from eating those things, I might overeat even more somewhere else. So just because I held myself away from eating the Oreos doesn't mean that it's that much better if I ate, mountains of cheese and boiled eggs and carrots and all these other things that might end up making me feel poorly at the end of the night too. So that's my story, and I'm feeling a lot better every day because of it.
Yay, cool. So remember what she said. She really started noticing that even if she was good during the week and stopped eating, she would binge on the weekends. And she saw this pattern. She saw this. It's like, what difference does it make if you hold off on a candy bar now, but then you eat like 5 potatoes because you're in a feeling of deprivation? She really started understanding this. She really started allowing herself to eat what she wanted. Now, here are a couple fears that come up. If you allow yourself to eat some bad foods, you won't stop. Now, I'm going to show you some other clips from interviews that I've done where they address this fear. These interviews are a little bit longer, but they contain just so much good information from real people who have stopped binge eating that I've worked with. So it's powerful information. Please, they're only a couple minutes. Just take your time, try to absorb their words, and we'll just take it from there.
If you are under the water for a minute and then you come up, you're going to gasp for air, and then, then or normalize. And that's what ends up happening with food too, is when you start the intuitive eating journey, sometimes you go through that honeymoon phase of everything is amazing and I can eat this and this and this and this. But in reality, if you're eating cake every day, you won't feel good. So it's about recognizing how the food that you're eating feels in your body.
Now, there's another fear too. So this was really important. What she just said was that when you let yourself eat these foods, let me just go back a sec. When you let yourself eat these foods, there's going to be a honeymoon period because you're super excited. These foods, according to your subconscious brain, these foods, the foods that you've been restricting, they're very rare. And your brain thinks these foods are rare, so it's going to be a honeymoon. It's like a relationship. You're just getting to know someone, you're very excited, and but then as you get to know the person, the excitement goes down. So there's a honeymoon period. So you allow yourself to eat these foods, and there's going to be excitement, so you got to stay mindful, but you really do let yourself enjoy these foods and have as much as you want. And it's really crucial too I've said this before, but just to make sure you're well fed that day. You're eating regularly, you've taken care of some emotional needs, so that when you do sit down, you're actually ready to be in a time where you can enjoy this and really experience the food without any restriction. Because when you give yourself that experience where you're not restricting anything, it reprograms your brain that this food is normal. It's available. It's not scarce. It's readily available. And when things are readily available, they become boring. Like she said, if you eat cake every day, you're not going to like it. Now, here's another common fear that comes up. But then I'll be eating unhealthy foods for unspoken is the rest of your life. And I will say hell no to that. Let's hear from someone else. How long will I desire donuts for? What can I expect? And how would you answer those questions?
Yeah, it's very common question.
Yeah.
It typically, I'll tell you, and whoever's listening, it doesn't usually take that long.
Yeah.
When I'm working with somebody, I want them to take it one day at a time. So, because that's part of their whole process is future tripping, projecting. And so if what they're really asking often is, if I let myself eat a donut, or if I let myself eat donuts unconditionally, I'm going to be eating them 10 years from now. So they're, and part of the whole process is, let's just come back to today. And every day this week, I want you to ask your body, does it want a donut? I don't care what the answer is. I just want them to get used to asking their body, does it want a donut? And they don't know. It's going to be really muddled up because their brain is going to be, that maybe that child adolescent part of their brain is going to be like, heck yeah, party, let's do it. But that doesn't last forever. And also at some point, their body's going to say, I don't think so. Maybe a glass of water, it'll ask for something different. And again, no judgment, just noticing.
Great. Very powerful stuff. So there is this period of excitement. That's when the previously scarce foods are becoming available, and stay with your body. How does your body feel? Do you want it? There will be a time, and it's sooner rather than later. But the more trust you go into this, the sooner the foods become normal. Now, this is another fear. This is just scary. Like, I can't imagine eating these foods. I'm going to not stop. I'm going to feel bad. Again, you have to be full. You have to be well fed that day. You have to be in a calm state when you really start doing this process. But it works. So let's just look at this.
So I feel like, incorporating foods that feel like either scary or, full of calories or, against what feels healthy, like forbidding foods is a sure way to make them a lot more sexy.
Yeah.
Right? So like if you can't have something, you want that something. And it will show up in your life somehow, right? Like, so even if you're not eating, you are successfully avoiding that food, other foods you'll feel out of control with, right? It's just, the more flexibility, the more permission it allows you to eat in a way that feels really normal and less chaotic.
So that's where we're at. We're getting to binge-free stability. Hope this makes sense to you. Let me know what other questions you have, and have a great day. Peace.